Hey YouTubers, good morning, Robb Moffat. Guys, this is August. Last month, July, was kind of crazy for me. I had some things happen. I almost never get colds, and I got a bad cold, and for 3 days, the saliva wasn't being swallowed. I was choking on it when I was trying to sleep. Couldn't sleep for 3 days. Went to the clinic, they gave me something, and stopped it. And the day after, I was thinking, oh man, I'm feeling so much better. And I sat down and I made a nice meal, had a lot of mushrooms in it, and I got this terrible pain in my stomach. And it went into my chest, and my mouth went dry, and I said, let me call the paramedics, see what they think. And they work for a living, they took me to the hospital. Spent 3 days, 2 nights, they did a bunch of testing, because I have insurance. And when I didn't have insurance, I was out in 60 minutes. But the main thing is, it looks like I have gallbladder issues. I might have to have my gallbladder out. Since I'm the only person left in my family that still has a gallbladder, that's probably what's going to happen. But I'm working on it. But the cool thing is, they did cardiac test, and everything's cool, because a year and 3 months ago I had a cardiac ablation on my heart because I had AFIB, paroxysmal AFIB. So this video is going to be about how I got my AFib, what happened, what I did to try to alleviate the symptoms, and then what made me finally decide to have an ablation, and how I've been living since the ablation. Very well. It's been a blessing. I've been blessed every day, because the last year and 4 months I haven't had paroxysmal AFib. So if you don't have AFib, this won't be a very interesting video, but if you do have AFib, I always found listening to people who had the same thing I did, and what they were dealing with and how they were handling it, really was helpful. So let's start from the beginning. If you're watching and you don't know what AFib is, you have 2 chambers or 4 chambers, but bottom and top, they go boom, 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 boom. That's normal. But when you have AFib, they go boom, 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 boom. The electrical system gets messed up, so the heart chambers don't beat like they should. And that won't kill you, but it will create clots, and they'll form in your heart and go into your body and give you a stroke and kill you. So you can live with AFib. In fact, the people who have AFib where they're constantly out of rhythm deal with AFib better than people who have paroxysmal AFib, because that's like a visitor that comes every 4, 5, 10 days and ruins your life, and then it goes away. Where if you have that visitor with you all the time, after a while you get used to it. Well, some people do. So in 2014, I was in my kitchen listening to the radio, and they were talking about a situation that was making me very angry, I won't go into, and my heart started doing stuff that didn't feel right, and never felt it before. It was, every once in a while, I think everybody had little tickling or bubbles or whatever, and you healthy, normal people have arrhythmias for temporary. They have pauses and skips and so on. It's normal. But this wasn't normal, and I called the paramedics the only second time I've ever been to the hospital. First time was a kidney stone. I didn't have insurance. They took me in and out in 16 minutes. But the AFib I had, I stayed a day and a half, and I went to see a doctor. And when you have AFib, doctors, in my experience, they have 3 roads they can travel down. They can offer you a medicine to slow your rhythm, which is a heart rate modification. They can give you more dangerous medicines that will control your rhythm, like flecainide. Or they can offer you a surgery, an ablation, cardiac ablation, where they go into the heart, and where the little nodes are that are firing off and signaling to the heart that aren't signaling right, they'll either burn them or freeze them and keep them from sending the signals. I lived with the AFib for 4 years, October 2014, And during the 4 years, I tried everything I could because I didn't want to have the surgery. I was afraid of it. Also, I'm inclined to believe if you have a problem, you should find the root cause and not cover it up. If you have rain coming through your roof, don't just get buckets. Find why you have rain coming. It's usually holes. So why did the roof go bad? You were made, go to the root cause. To me, just the pills and stuff, and even the surgery, if the root cause was still there, I would still have issues with my health. So I did a lot of research. I became not an expert in AFib, but a very gifted amateur. And there's a lot of good information. There's a cardiologist from York called Dr. Gupta, who I love very much. He's got some of the best information I've found on AFib. I'll leave a link. But I tried so many different things. I think I was looking for the list, I couldn't find it. I had it somewhere. I made a list one time, all the things I tried, like 20 some different things. And I did have, I think it's difficult to tell because when things are coming randomly, it's difficult to tell if anything you're doing is helping. But I do feel that taking magnesium might have helped. I tried like 4 different magnesiums. The last one I tried is the one I continued to take. It's a liquid magnesium. You pour a capful in a big tumbler of water, and you just drink the water during the day. It's not a pleasant taste, but you get used to it. The next thing is, toward the end of my adventure with AFib, I was getting a lot of tachycardia. Usually you have, tachy means your heart is beating very fast, boom, 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 boom. And usually my AFib, because I'm a lucky person, I can pretty much tell what my heart's doing. I'm not surprised when I go to the doctor and he tells me. I know what's going on. I don't even need my stethoscope. But usually tachycardia going fast, when I would get my AFib, either that would start to show, it'd be really fast, then I go into AFib, or sometimes where I was in AFib and I was listening with my stethoscope where I could tell it would go into tachy and then it would go back into sinus normal rhythm. So I was used to having tachy, but I started getting spells of where it was going into tachycardia, but there was no AFib associated with it. It was wearing me down. I'd be out for a walk and I'd go boom, 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 boom. I was scared I was going to have a heart attack or something. And after a while, AFib was making me into invalid. It was killing me. When I initially had AFib, it would come mostly at nighttime or after large meals if I laid down. And then I could deal with not having much sleep and trying to live during the day because pretty much there was no AFib. But then it started coming in the daytime too. So eventually I gave up and I had the ablation. Before we get to the ablation part, I started keeping a journal. And this is one of the most important things you can do, is write down every day what you're eating, what you're doing, and then what medicines you're taking, what you stopped, what you started taking, and also write down when you have your AFib events, then you know what preceded it, and then also what happened when you went out of AFib back into normal sinus rhythm. So you can get clues as to what are your triggers, because oftentimes there are triggers and you can modify your lifestyle and help reduce the amount of episodes you have. For me, some of my triggers were laying down after eating or just bending over. I also had so many AFib episodes, also my very first one in the kitchen. I got a monitor to see if there was some electronic magnetic radiation from my appliances or something that might be affecting my heart, because so many were happening in the kitchen. And I think I may know why. I'd often be laying in bed watching TV or whatever, just sleeping, and then I'd get up and first thing I'd do, I'd go into the kitchen and make a meal. And so from laying down and standing up, that's when my heart would be stressed. So there's a name for that too, that type of problem where people lay down and get up. It affects their nervous system is out of whack. So I also had a sleep apnea test, which is a video in itself. So I did many, many different things. I started off with a heart rate medicine, metoprolol, and after a year or two, my new cardiologist, he changed it to atenolol. That didn't really help much either. So we eventually tried some flecainide, and I stopped that within a month or so because it's more dangerous than the beta blockers, the atenolol or the metoprolol. So it wasn't having much an effect. And then because I was keeping a list of all my events, I was starting to chart them. Now I didn't keep like the first 9 months or so, so I didn't have all my information. But I was able to tell, it looked like these are the amount of hours. So like the highest one I had was 19 hours here. So they would start off, they would be a one with just a few hours, and they go up very high, then down, then up, but not as high, then down, and then up again, not as high. So it looked like what was happening is the duration was decreasing. However, the frequency was increasing by quite a bit. But I was having hopes, like just like when you drop a ball, it goes boom, 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 and eventually stops. Well, it looks to me like you grasp at straws. You try to find anything that maybe will help you. It looked like it was going up and down, up, down, up, down, up, and maybe eventually it would just peter out and it would be gone. Well, it went up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. 19 hours. I said, you know what? I've had enough. Over 4 years, I've tried everything. Also, I did more research, and I began to realize that maybe I don't have AFib because of something I did or something I'm doing or something I can change. Maybe it's just something I was born with. You know, you have gray hair, you have a fun ear, whatever. You know, things happen because of who you are. Everybody's variable. So it isn't something maybe I could start eating differently or exercising differently or just this supplement. Maybe there was just something with my heart that was diseased or afflicted, and by getting rid of those nodes, that was the answer. So I scheduled the surgery with Dr. Marcelo Helguera at Cleveland Clinic. Initially, my first doctor had recommended another surgeon to do the surgery. And when I was talking with my new doctor, he said that he recommended another person. I asked him why. And he was surprisingly candid. He said, well, the other doctor, he just thinks he does too many surgeries during the week. Like, where the other one, he's been doing them for 30 years, 20 years, 25 years. But he doesn't do tons of them every week. And he spends more time. So to me, if he has all the experience in the world, but he's not just trying to push through as many as he can, I want to go with that guy. And I was kind of happy I did. The surgery was in April last year, 2018. I didn't respond well as far as my physical health. The heart responded fine. I did have initially, after the surgery, within the first week, I had some minor disturbances, maybe a tiny bit of arrhythmia, but just for momentarily, minutes. After that, within a week or two, everything quieted down. However, physically, I was a wreck. I know other people who had the AFib, the ablation. They said it's like root canal. Well, root canal could be bad, but this wasn't root canal. I mean, I was, I think it was a long surgery, and I was really tired. And it took me like several days. I had to give my dog to my nephew for 10 days to walk because I wasn't able to walk. But after 10 days, I got the dog back and I walked it, but very slowly. And over time, within a month or two, I started an exercise program. And I started walking every day to Home Depot for like 20 minutes up and 20 minutes back. And then I would do exercise here. And I have a mini trampoline I love because even when I was really tired or physically not well, I could sort of just bounce slow, not jump, no jumping, just bounce slowly. And it was moving my joints and everything, and it was making me feel better. And I think that's one of my favorite exercise instruments or things to do is the mini trampoline. Then, as time went by, just a few months ago, I started getting some issues. Not arrhythmia, but just skipping. Like I was walking up to Home Depot and back, and it started skipping on me. So I stopped the walking because I didn't want to do anything that would aggravate my heart and make AFib to come back. Also, I didn't know if the skipping was a sign of some other issue. But I always wore my heart monitor, and I didn't go over like 115 or 120 pulse. My maximum, 80% of my pulse for my age is like 126, and I try not to go over that. But I was doing some calisthenics at home, and then I was ending it with push-ups. I'm crazy. I was wearing the heart monitor walking, but I wasn't wearing it when I was doing the more physical stuff. And I was gradually getting more and more push-ups every time I did my exercise. I was up to 32 push-ups without stopping. And the last time I did it, I went from like 20, 25 to 30, then I went to 32, and my target was 40 to see if I could just keep it there. Well, my heart was beating like a drum. It should be do 32 push-ups, but then it started skipping, boom, 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 and it went on for hours. But I was used to that because when I had AFib, it was common to have days where I would just be flubby, where I'd be skipping every 4th, 5th, 10th, 20th heartbeat, or pausing. So the next day it was fine, but then I decided not to do any more exercise for a while because my heart was feeling, I think it was for the push-ups, I was feeling a little bit tenderness. And it was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. On Tuesday, no exercising, and it started skipping again. And then I could tell it wasn't AFib, but it wasn't skipping. And I don't have it with me. I have a little tiny little ECG machine that does a printout of your heart, and I'll leave a link to it. I've done the videos on it. It said first no abnormal, even though it was skipping. Then it said it's skipping. Then it said arrhythmia, but then that went away within like a minute or two. So I ended up stopping my exercises. But because I was in the hospital in July, I went back to see my doctor, and he gave me a clean bill of health, and he said not to worry about the skipping, continue to do my exercising, and I'm going to start exercising again. So yesterday was a very good day for me. But if you have AFib, one of the best things that helped me was to calm myself. I have a superpower. I can imagine the worst thing in the world. That's my superpower. I can worry about everything, and I can imagine the worst thing that could happen. So when I got AFib, I was thinking all these terrible things that could happen. You know, was I going to die? My door's locked and my dog's going to eat me? You know, I'd go at nighttime, leave my door unlocked, because if I died, I didn't want them to have to break the door down. You know, that's not a good way to live. And as you can see, my early AFib, even though they didn't come frequently, they were some of the highest I had was at the very beginning. And I think because they lasted so long was because I was so terrified. Over time, it got to be, well, here it comes again, and I just go lay down. That's something else. I found out I was able to make them, I think, leave quicker by, once I knew I was in AFib, to just walk around slowly and do some exercise. A couple of times I actually took the dog for a walk while I was in AFib, and it went away while I was walking the dog. So don't be terrified that you can't do anything if you're in AFib, and don't be terrified that you're going to die if you've got paroxysmal. A lot of people, everybody's different. A lot of people go to the hospital immediately if they get something that's over 3 or 4 hours. I would go, to me, I didn't get worried unless it went over 12 hours, and almost all of them were below 12 hours. So I was lucky in that respect. I didn't have to have cardioversion. It would go in by itself. I would try the Valsalva maneuvers. I would put ice on my back. I would put ice water on my face. I would bend down, take deep breaths. And occasionally things would get better, but then next time I tried it, it didn't. So I never knew if it was random or not. But like I said, I must have tried a half a dozen different things to get out of AFib once it got in. And I tried dozens of things to keep from getting an AFib. I tried acupuncture, about $700, and didn't see anything really, it was non-invasive and it was painless, and some people have reported benefits, but I think it's worth trying, but I didn't find any help. So those are the options you have: medicine, heart rate, heart rhythm, and the ablation. Now, what happens if it keeps going in and out? Eventually your heart will say, this is the new way we want to do things. We want to continually go boom, 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 boom. And your heart, it'll make different paths, different roads to travel the electrical signals, and you'll go into chronic AFib where it's constant. Some people claim they are able to deal with the chronic AFib easier because it's there all the time. And what they do is they take a blood thinner like Eliquis, which I found I tolerated easily. When they do that, it's difficult for the body to make a clot, so because the heart is not pumping normally, it's difficult to make the clot with this medicine, so they're less likely to have a stroke from clots. So it's not that. Some people in their 80s or 90s live a regular life in constant AFib, so the paroxysmal AFib I think is more difficult because it's a knock on the door and here it is and you didn't want it to come and here you go again, and it was killing me. It was making me an invalid. So for a year and 3 months I've been good. There are some dangers to the surgery, but it's actually less of a dangerous surgery than hip replacement. Because I worry about everything, naturally I got when they put the tubes down my throat, I was long surgery, they ended up with a contact ulcer. And I was in a lot of pain in my throat. And I went on the web and I found out where if they burn or damage a part of your throat here in the esophagus, if they mess up your esophagus in such a way with this particular surgery, it can cause an injury in which it's like 95% fatal. There's not too much they can do. So here I was having this bad pain in my throat that almost nobody else seems to get. And so I went and saw the ear, nose, throat person, and then she said it was a contact ulcer and gave me some proton pump inhibitor, meprazole, which they give to people with acid reflux for 30 days. And after the ulcer went away, I ended up with acid reflux. And I did some research on that, and I made a video on that, how to get rid of it, because I didn't want to have that. And then after that, I ended up getting a hemorrhoid, which I had never had before. I haven't made a video on that yet, but I spent 30 days with that. So it's been interesting. I mean, this last last year and a half, I've had like 4 or 5 things I've never had before in my life. So it's been fun. Becoming a doctor. So, like I said, I took the Eliquis. My doctor took me off of it in January of this year. So all I'm taking now is an aspirin, baby aspirin every day. And even that, the doctor said, that's not so much for my heart, for other things, because there is now some studies indicating that the aspirin may not be that good for stopping strokes after all. It might be good for heart attacks, but I also take melatonin at night. I started taking the melatonin because I found out it was something helpful with acid reflux. It helps regulate the valve that's in your throat. It also helps sleep very much. And I've also improved my sleeping by shutting down every light source in my bedroom and going to sleep at the same time and taking the melatonin. And now, instead of sleeping 5 and 6 hours, I sleep 7 and 8 hours. So I don't have to worry about sleep apnea so much. That's about it. I would recommend to watch Dr. Gupta, his videos on AFib. There's a lot of good information online. If you're worried about the ablation surgery, find a good doctor, the one who sees you as a patient and not a customer. Good luck. Keep track of everything. When your AFib starts, when it stops, what you're doing, what you're not doing, what you're eating, to help you find triggers. If you do take medicine like metoprolol or atenolol, they were starting me off very high doses. I immediately reduced them on my own to where you should talk to your doctor. But they were making me into a zombie. So I found I was also, I test my blood pressure and my pulse every day, and I had the stethoscope. So I was monitoring my heart rate, and it was down too low. So I knew what it was doing to me, so I was able to lower my doses, because everybody's different. So they give you a certain amount, but if it's affecting you a certain way, you should let your doctor know so you can adjust your medicine accordingly. You just don't want to take something religiously. You should let them know and see if you can adjust something if it's affecting you. As an example, I've been taking, we won't talk about that. So if you do have AFib, I want you to have hope that there is a possibility of you finding a way to get rid of it. 40% of people who have ablation end up having it again. They have to either have another ablation or take other medications that may help. Some people respond with medications. In fact, some people respond by just losing weight or changing their lifestyle. Some doctors, they say, oh, AFib is a lifestyle disease. I try to change everything in my life I could. If I had to hop around on one leg and recite Hail Marys, I mean, I would do anything. It didn't help. So not everybody has a reason for getting AFib. There was no, except for my age, there was no reason for me to have AFib. That they, like diabetes or blood pressure or drinking or caffeine. That's another thing. I've modified my diet, and I don't have any caffeine or alcohol or tobacco or drugs or anything that will make my heart artificially high or low. So it's been difficult not having coffee and tea. Very difficult. So I hope this video helped. Hope you keep track of your events and don't lose hope. Try to be calm when your AFib comes to visit, and monitor your lifestyle to do everything you can, like lose weight and to exercise and eat right and so on. Find your triggers, and should you do have the ablation, should you eventually have the ablation, don't go back to your old lifestyle. Don't binge drink or binge eat, or you got to lead a healthy life and give your heart a chance. You want to do everything you can. So I'm sure I'm leaving out something. I know I'm back in my mind saying I should have told him this. I'll leave an update if I think of it. I'll leave it in the comments. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything, and I'll respond back. And don't forget to check out Dr. Gupta and hang in there. It gets better. Eventually you get hemorrhoids and your gallbladder out and acid reflux. But it's any day during rhythm is a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day, guys. Take care. I see you out there.